The Dictator-class cruiser is something of an anomaly in the Imperial Navy. While it can be found in every sector of the galaxy and is widely used and respected as an effective fleet carrier and command cruiser, it was never meant to be. At the end of the Horus Heresy, the tactical preferences of the Imperial Navy began to move away from the prior doctrine of carrier-based combat in favor of heavy gunship and torpedo-centered vessels. This preference is best demonstrated in the Bacchus sector, where the big guns philosophy is so strong that carrier vessels are almost unheard of in the sector, the tactical response to enemy incoming strike craft generally being add more guns to compensate. The first Dictator was created not out of necessity, but to resolve a logistical hole. At the time of its construction, the Imperium lacked an effective planetary landing vessel with adequate defenses to keep strike craft protected while in orbit. The solution was to take one of the many damaged or hulked lunar cruisers, remove its lance bays, and put in primitive launch bays. This provided a place where Marauder bombers and Thunderbolt fighters could launch and dock with relative safety in orbit during an invasion or the defense of a world. The success of this design eventually resulted in drastic improvements to the command and control centers of the ship and void-borne fighters and bombers to replace the atmospheric ones. While at first it was considered a simple stopgap measure and never meant to be considered a standardized vessel, the success of the Dictator and its unique loadout made it an extraordinarily popular choice with fleet commanders. The sturdy Imperial design permitted far greater defensive than prior carrier classes, while many view the vessel as undergunned, a few admirals go into battle without a Dictator providing support. The Dictator cruiser, like its sister ships, is designed for a frontal assault, making it unique as a carrier design. Its weapons loadout of 6 torpedo tubes, 4 port and starboard macro cannons, and 2 launch bays make it well suited for a frontal assault and close-range combat. Unlike the Gothic, it is meant to provide critical fighter support screens and opportunistic bombing runs while maintaining formation with a frontal assault, using its torpedoes to break up enemy formations on the frontal assault itself. The lack of high-complexity systems permits a larger crew, allowing for more efficient reloading of ordnance and making it possible to prepare strike craft for attack runs and reloading its torpedo tubes at the same time. It has a crew complement of between 85 and 100,000 souls, including pilots and support personnel for the strike craft. It shares the dimensions of its sister vessel, the Lunar. Like other ships of its near family, the Dictator is not designed to function alone, but unlike its sister vessels, the Lunar or Gothic, it has the flexibility to do so if necessary. With its loaded Fury fighters and Starhawk bombers, it can engage a far larger variety of targets and come out on top, permitting to keep distance with the enemy while its strike craft and torpedoes do most of the heavy lifting. Experienced commanders who aren't afraid of bucking the big guns trend know that the best ship to squadron this vessel with is another Dictator, creating a terrifying and destructive locus of ordnance dominance on the battlefield. The Adeptus Mechanicus exemplify this, making this vessel a frightening one to deal with, as they are more than happy to enhance the weapons batteries or replace the torpedoes with a Nova cannon. There are many heroic vessels of this class, namely because of their crucial fulfillment of a tactical hole in the Imperial Navy's combat doctrine. The Radamanthi and Archon Court fought bravely in the Gothic War, and so much so that their example saw the conversion of 7 damaged lunar cruisers into the Dictator class during the conflict, even if they did not survive the war. The Lord Solar Macarius, a inspired name, under the command of Flag Captain Leotin Semper, was the first vessel to obtain detailed auspex readings of the planet killer itself and survive. It also secured Eldar assistance for the war effort at the end of the Gothic War. Unlike other classes, this vessel is rarely, if ever, seen in the hands of rogue freighters or renegades. Its limited construction numbers make it a tightly controlled commodity in the Imperial Navy, and for good reason. If this vessel should fall into enemy hands, it would be a terrifying thing to behold indeed. Fourth wall break here. So the Dictator was always a strange craft to me, given the lore is not necessarily very consistent in its regard. They are also not necessarily very often seen in lore. There's a couple of notable examples, like in some of the books that relate to the Gothic War, but it just doesn't have the grandeur that things like the Lunar does, unfortunately. In the game, they're essential, and despite the fact that they're referenced so often as being rare, nobody walks into a match without one unless you're playing Baka. They are your essential, quintessential fleet carrier, and they're better in many regards than the Mars because they are capable of launching torpedoes and launching attack craft, which is a pretty unique, uh, characteristic. Very few things in the game have those two combined elements to them. It's a little crazy on the board. I always get good results out of my dictators. They are a fantastic ship. Tell me about your dictators. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. Oh, also, I have a new mic rig set up, so if I sound different, that's why. Hopefully, I sound better. Let me know again down in the comments, and hopefully you all will stick around to see the next video when I talk about the Dominator. I'll talk to you all later. Have a great day. Bye-bye.